Welcome back, everybody, to Gringos Liberados. This is 2024 episode 9, our weekly CBLOL English summary podcast. My name is Trajan. I'm joined today by RMC and Soph-chan. How are we doing this week? We're so close to playoffs now. We're so close. And RMC, you were telling me before about this is the time when CBLOL always gets a bit weird. And we did get a bit weird again, didn't we?
Yep, it feels like every single split, first 2 weeks, last week, Trajan, things start to get kind of wonky. You can call it, international event hangover for the beginning. You can call it, trying or experimenting in the last 2 weeks. Personally, I call it brand building for Pain Gaming. But yeah, things get kind of weird.
Yeah. You gotta get that Dorflex money, you know what I mean? You gotta earn it. You gotta give them, otherwise the fans aren't gonna buy. You gotta get those affiliate links getting clicked, otherwise they're not gonna get refunded. So, Chad, how do you feel? How do you feel about the CBLOL right now? Are we feeling confident? We're feeling good?
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. I think that there's so much property in saying that the first 2 weeks and the last 2 weeks are very similar, because these last 2 weeks are feeling very much like experimenting stuff, and I don't mind it. If it gets your players comfortable, if you get your players a little confident, given the fact that you're not under the pressure of playoffs, yeah, you're getting wins. That's good, because we got a couple of those to talk about later.
We have a couple of wins, certainly, that did happen. But yeah, this first season gave us the one-on-one week 1, and then the blue side dominance from the early sides, and now we've gone straight into who knows who is going to win. Who knows who is actually good right now at the top of this league. But we can instead maybe view it as everyone's good, right? Let's just say that everyone's good and don't check the tapes too closely, okay? Let's just please believe us. But the first thing I think we can talk about a bit more directly is the playoff spots, because we have one more week left and we have not quite locked them. We have gotten 7. We've got 3 teams eliminated now. As of this week, we have 7 teams remaining. So there's only 1 slot left to be captured, as it were. INTZ, FURIA, and Fluxo are now all eliminated. And really, it's Liberty and Los Grandes who are contesting this last spot. Now, KaBuM also only has 9 wins, but I'm not going to address that, because if I speak it into existence, I'll manifest it. And I don't want to do that. And the main thing is also KaBuM plays against Loss, and Loss plays against Loud, and Liberty plays against Red. So I think if KaBuM could still get kicked out by Loss, in theory, if Loss 2-0s, because Loss has the head-to-head. So all 3 of them are currently not confirmed. But if I could just get a temperature check from you both, who do we think is actually locking these spots? KaBuM, Liberty, Los Grandes, RMC, which 2 are taking them? Just off the dome, no reasoning to kick us off. Just give me the prediction, and we'll get into it.
Okay, do you want me to break down what Los's win con is to actually make top 6 first?
No,
or...
not yet.
Okay,
not yet.
No,
not yet. No, full stop, period, move on.
I think KaBuM and Liberty will probably still take it.
Okay, so you in agreement?
Yeah.
You are.
Nothing changing on my end. Liberty, KaBuM.
Yeah, I still think that it's so hard for it to be KaBuM and Loss, because Liberty and Loss have or Loss has I guess Loss has the head-to-head over Liberty. So if Liberty just completely implodes, it can be KaBuM and Loss, I think. Oh no, because they play each other. And then KaBuM...
They have played each other.
Off the dome.
KaBuM Loss. I'm sticking with KaBuM
Loss.
It's
true.
Okay, so KaBuM, I'm going to stick with KaBuM Loss. As I said before a couple weeks ago, if there is justice, I believe that Los Grandes makes it, because I believe they've been playing really solid games.
It's justice.
But I think that, honestly, if there's justice, KaBuM probably doesn't make it. Honestly, that's kind of the flip side of this.
Mood. It really is.
And as much as it hurts, it kind of is justified at this point. RMC, okay, talk to me about your reasoning for here. You've got Liberty and KaBuM. Talk to us a little bit about that. Why have you got these 2? Why do you not have Loss?
Okay, so part of it is the math behind it, which I will break down. So Los Grandes needs 1 more win than either KaBuM or Liberty in the last week.
Yeah.
But they are up against Loud and KaBuM. Now, if they beat KaBuM, then they actually might make it. But the problem is that involves KaBuM losing to Furia as well. So I think just strength of schedule, Los Grandes has it the hardest. I think we're seeing Envy and we're seeing Seas and Super Clever all really peak at the right time. Cabby as well. Cello hasn't quite popped off yet, and I think that's where I'm a bit worried about, because we've seen Liberty on their 7-streak high. We know that they have pop-up potential. They just need to win, 2 of the games and they guarantee the lock. And KaBuM on the other hand, they still have a lot of name power. Granted, they did lose a game last week, but even then, I'm gonna be honest, I think that was a bit of an uncharacteristic performance of them. Yes, they've been slumping a little. I don't think they'll slump enough.
Soph?
I think RMC just really said everything I was going to point out, because I was going to talk about the matchups for the next weekend. The fact that they are 2 wins behind. And if you compare to, for example, Liberty, that yes, they are playing against Red, but from the top 4 spots for playoffs, Red has been definitely the weakest given where they are on the top 4. And if you notice the next match for the Sunday, Liberty are playing against Fluxo. So I think there's a bigger chance that Liberty is going to beat Fluxo. And there is a good chance, actually, I believe, that Liberty could win against Red. So it could be 2 wins there on the back of this last regular phase, on top of the fact that Los are playing against Loud. Like, how do you manage that? It's really difficult. Although, when we are talking about the top of playoffs, I have a couple of things to point out about Loud.
Yeah, we'll get into Loud and the top in a moment, but I think for KaBuM, it looked like, because we had the 4-game loss streak, and I was thinking, no, it's all happening again. We've come crashing down to earth, and then they beat Pain, and I was like, sorted, fine. We've pulled out of the tailspin, perfect, and then we combo that straight into the INTZ loss, and it go, and I was on holiday at the time. And it ruined my day. I'll be honest. I saw this. I was hanging out, drinking sangria in Barcelona with my friends, and then I saw that result, and I was like, "What is happening?" And they were like, "What's wrong?" And I was like, "Don't ask. Don't talk to me right now." So that's why I say maybe if there is justice, they don't make it in. And I think, as much as I think Los Grandes have earned a shot in best ofs, Liberty as well, how can I say that they haven't? How can I also say that Liberty haven't earned a shot in best of 5s when they have been maybe the most exciting thing about this whole season now, up to this point.
Yep.
Now, they specifically have a bad matchup against Los. They are 0-2 against Los, so Los has the free head-to-head there. And I predicted this the first time round and the second time round, and that was the one moment where after that game, I was like, now, I've been watching this region for 3 years. I think I finally get it. I finally have got my head around the CBLOL. I understand it. I see the matrix. And then, KaBuM lost to INTZ, and I was like, well, okay, whatever. Whatever, man. Whatever. So I think that any of these 3 teams is going to give us something in the playoffs. They are not going to be a NetShoes Miners-esque, well, I guess they're here, and there they go, wee. But
throwing all your old teams under the bus.
Well, they threw me under the bus.
No,
okay?
under the train.
They threw me under the train when I tried to stick up for them week after week, and they gave me nothing. Okay? But and even old Liberty was kind of a culprit for that, right? They would arrive in 5th and 6th, and they'd be like, well, where's the future for this in playoffs? And they would get knocked out in 5th and 6th, or they'd beat Miners and then get knocked out in 5th, you know what I mean? So I think that for sure. There's a chance for Liberty as an org to really give us a lot more this time around and show them, like, this is we've got great coaching, we have great strategy, and now we can make a deep run. We're not just like languishing at the bottom of the table forever.
Wait, so you're supporting Liberty now, Trajan?
I've kind of talked myself into it, honestly.
Okay. I'd like to change my vote then. I'd like to say KaBuM and Los Grandes make it.
Dude, it's great. It's wonderful, and it's terrible that all 3. I want all 3 of these teams in. I really don't want to see any of them go. It would break my heart to see any of them go, and one of them is going to go next week.
Yes,
Such is life.
And
it's inevitable.
I really like kind of like the setup you had there, Trisha. I think each of these teams bring something different to the table, right? KaBuM, the name
yeah.
value that they have, Liberty, the explosive sort of rookie value, the amazing run they had, individual mechanics that Darius in the top lane, Mikau with his re-energization with the Senna and the Smolder. Los Grandes for me, because I like watching macro and teamwork more than anything else. Los Grandes is that team I really want to see go through, and I've been such a big fan of Super Clever even through his academy days that
Oh yeah.
I would just love for them to go through. So I love the sort of setup we have here. That no matter what, all three teams are exciting, and I think the last 2 weeks, I think we'll go right down to the very last week between these three teams. So that's good. We will always have stakes in the regular season. This won't be one of the regular seasons where you just kind of fizzle out without any stakes.
So much to play for
Yeah,
sure.
I think makes quite a lot of sense because all of these teams have such specific keys, such specific pieces that really make them shine in a certain way. I agree that Los Grandes has to be super clever. Liberty for me, everybody, I think they are playing well. You don't get 7 wins in a row if you're not playing as a cohesive unit. But to me, it's Turtle and Belzy behind them that really make them be the team that they are right now. And KaBuM, I agree about the namesake, but I have been disappointed with that performance recently, especially with that match against INTZ. And you are not in a point where you can be given away matches like at all. Like you really cannot, even if it's against the bottomest of the table. So I don't agree that I don't agree with that, and I don't appreciate trying to use that moment to try and do something new when you've had all regular season to try your compositions. So you should be on a solid rock now of understanding of how you want to play and setting things up for your pace on playoffs.
Yeah, I've got, we'll have words to share on their draft in that game, and I think a lot of KaBuM's, not a lot of KaBuM's drafts maybe, but I have questioned some of the way they've been drafting or the way they've been building or the way they've just been, I don't know, maybe simultaneously somehow playing it too safe but also choosing a very weird moment to push the boat out. And I just, in comparison to someone like Liberty and Los Grandes, where I think their strategy is on lock, man. And they're able to, Liberty particularly, are able to use the draft in a creative way to get unique advantages that have now made it so that we as a region have to ban Darius first rotation.
Yeah.
Because everyone's just picking Darius, and now that's makes, man. That is the makes effect that has happened, that has made this happen, and that's amazing. So there seems to be a big disparity there. The names certainly favor KaBuM, but I think the back room perhaps favors the other two. But we'll get into that in a bit more depth. Let's talk about our top teams before we move on. Let's talk about who's actually gonna come first, because this is maybe an even harder question than who makes it into playoffs. We've got 4 teams that can still make it by my calculation. Only 1 game in it. Loud and Viva Cade on 11 wins, Pain and Red on 10, and a lot of them have at least 1 or 2 games against kind of non-playoff teams or teams below them in the ranking. Not many games against each other, so they can kind of pick up a lot of wins without interacting with their direct rivals that well or that much. So RMC top 4, what are we thinking? You have any names that you think are likely?
First of all, Kate Stars still has to interact with 2 of the competitors. They are actually up against both Loud.
I guess they're the
and
one.
Pain. They are the most screwed team in terms of that.
Yeah.
And secondly, of the top 4, Pain is actually not locked playoffs. There is a world in which they don't make playoffs.
So they're head-to-heads, so that bad?
Or no, sorry. No. They will make playoffs, I think, but they can end up 5th or 6th, depending on how
they can't lock. Because everyone
they're not locked for the top 4.
Sure, everyone is winner's side right now in playoffs this time. I think we don't have like top 4 winner's side and then bottom 2 losers bracket, or do we still have that?
We do have the top 4. So the bottom 2 start in the.
Do they?
No, I think that changed.
No, it's round 2. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Top
it's
two
round
teams
2.
Top 2 teams go round 2.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you do start in the. Everybody does start in the.
So everyone gets 2 series now.
Yeah.
But so Pain's actually in a slightly rougher position than the others against Liberty. So Pain's in a bit of a rough spot. So I think Kate Stars and Pain are in interesting situations, and because of that, I think it's going to be either Red or Loud who takes first. And
Okay.
Loud do have one extra win over Red. So
yeah.
I'm favoring Loud just based on the numbers and the fact that it's almost playoffs. And we've seen it already happen again. Was it Coisa, ruin, voltou? The bad thing returns. Like, that's just how it is every single split. Pain, Loud towards the end. Sorry,
I got it now.
Yeah.
So please pronounce it for
to
our
pronunciation check him.
So can you say that again, just to make sure that I understand what you're talking
Okay,
about?
I'm butchering this. I apologize.
Coisa ruim, voltou, é isso?
Yeah, coisa
ruim, voltou. Yeah, it's like the bad thing returned, like the bad guy returned.
Yeah.
That's just like the motto of Loud at this point, right? And we are back to that again. I don't think they're going to be dropping their games. They're up against Los and K-Stars. And hey, maybe I'm wrong. K-Stars are up against Pain and Loud. If they beat Pain, maybe they can beat Loud. But I don't see Loud dropping games last week.
Yeah, because KaBuM has the 1-on-1 with them and they'd have to tiebreaker, and Liberty is 2-0 over them. And then Red... Because Lost can't knock them out, can they? Surely not, because Lost are 0-2 to Pain. So I think that you'd need KaBuM, Liberty, and Los Grandes to all make it in to somehow shove Pain out, but I don't think Lost can shove Pain out.
So yeah, not my bad. They won't knock Pain out of playoff.
But they could end up bottom.
There's a chance that Pain end fifth.
They could end up bottom of the pile, which would be shocking in itself, honestly. Given most of this season, I think Pain or VKS, and I would have said Pain was the clear choice for, like, this is the best team right now, is Pain. They're playing the best, the most consistently. And K-Stars I always struggle to believe in as much because a lot of their games were a little messier. And I think that then they had like the Takui mid lane swap, which ended up working out, and there was just more reasons to be concerned about VKS for me. But Pain, I was like, well, this seems to be working really well, so we're just chilling, right? And now here we are, 0-2 week,
and we're not chilling
anymore. we are not chilling.
That's basically, to me, the reason why I'm believing on VKS more at this point. So because of how well they were doing with Tukui and then how well they were doing with Leleco, really makes me think, man, they know how to communicate with each other. They know how to make plays, and they have such a great strategy from the draft, from the get-go, that when they go in, it doesn't matter that the guy is literally jumping in at that tier 1 debut and getting wins on top of wins on top of wins, right? They know how to execute it, and that makes me very confident in VKS. So to me, although as I agree quite a lot with RMC in regards to, like, I don't see Loud dropping these games at the end of the split, I still have some concerns with the like backstage videos and footage that we've had from them speaking with their coach Stardust, and how they are just not gelling. These players were supposed to be like so well oiled machine, and they're not. They are very upset with each other, how they're making plays and not really conversing, not listening to the shot callers, or even not going for the plan that Stardust has to begin with. That to me speaks messy, and to me speaks why they had such a long game against who was it? It was bottom of the table. Was it Fluxo?
They played 39, almost 40-minute game against INTZ.
Exactly. That it had no right to exist. Because
no. This week though.
No, they did well. I agree with you. But Loud, they did as well as they could have, like INTZ.
Yeah.
But the problem is, Loud, as you said, they're not supposed to be making mistakes and dropping games at the end of the split. Like, they really shouldn't. This shouldn't be allowed in any way or form. And they are doing so. They are spending 40 minutes on the Summoner's Rift. And I don't think they should. They had plenty of openings on those games, where they could have ended, and they did not. So it's not because the enemy was like playing so well they were denied. No. They were a little too comfortable. They were letting it go. Some of these plays, okay, we die here, we give a shit down, there's no problem. And then the game starts like taking longer and longer. And if the enemy team starts feeling more comfortable and have a hyperscaling composition, they could have won. Like, they could have lost that game. That is like a possibility. And it shouldn't be the case. So I'm not very convinced with Loud at this point. I am actually upset of how they are performing. So I would say
Yeah.
to me, top 4 would be VKS, into Loud, then Pain Red.
Okay.
To me,
And then,
that's what it goes.
so loud being second then, right?
Yeah. So VKS, Loud, Pain Red. And I'm not very happy with Pain and Red either. They're making some mistakes that I don't think they should be, but I still think they have a more like cohesive team than, for example, KaBuM going up on the standings. They are not.
The Red Loud game was a very interesting one from last week because it gave us a bit of a view into a feeling that what I think a lot of us on the CBLOL English have shared is that there's something about Red that makes us believe that they have a chance against Loud, whereas so many others, it's like, yeah, but you're just going to lose in the end, aren't you? Like, against Loud, it's kind of like, we don't longer, maybe we will now, but for so many years, we did not have any faith in Pain to actually beat Loud at any point. Like, you can get there and you can go to the finals and sure, but like, come on, we know where this is going. But with Red, there was a feeling that it could be different. And that game, it did go to Loud in the end. But it went 40 plus minutes and it felt like both teams were exchanging like set play victories. They weren't just, no one got snowballed, no one was able to get a big advantage, and it came down to clutch team fight after clutch team fight to resolve it. That Loud ended up coming up on top, out on top on. So I think I have faith in Red to 2-0 this week. Even I think they will beat Liberty. I don't know really why I feel that way. I just kind of do. And I think they'll end up with 12 wins. And if Loud get to 13, then sure. But I think Red could easily end up top 2 for me, just because their last week is not as bad. And then for VKS, yeah, it's very tough for them. And I think they are the true. We know Loud, we know Pain, we know Red. We don't really know VKS. We've known them for one split. And if they then come into this week, take both of these wins and end up first, that will be massive. That will be very impactful for this org, this roster. It will be such a stamp of success and approval on this strategy and the project that VKS have come in with after failing to execute on a very specific strategy last year, I feel, where it just never quite got to the point where we could feel it could. Now, it's already kind of at that point, and if they end up first, that will be, I think, just a very notable event that they can sit above these 3 pillars of the region right below them, regardless of how best ofs start to play out.
Yeah, and I think it's doubly interesting for me as well because I feel like K-Stars in the last few weeks actually has looked weaker than they did.
Yes, I agree.
I think their early game macro especially strikes me as not being as organized. Like previously, they were the team who had a game plan, and they were just getting out-muscled by teams like Pain and like Red, these sort of teams who just were beating them in lanes. But they had a game plan, and they were sticking to it. These last couple of weeks, it feels more like they were out-muscling their opponents than actual great game plan. Even the Red game, like it's not anything wrong that K-Stars necessarily did. It's just they didn't feel quite as proactive, and that gave Red the space to make a lot of these plays. Oh, sorry, I'm getting into shot. They didn't play Red this week. Who did K-Stars play this week?
They played
Liberty
Furia and Liberty.
Furia.
Oh, okay. It was the Liberty game was the one where it felt like they were letting Liberty dictate this sort of game to them. And they were just trying to outmuscle in terms of the individual performance. And to me, that was not how K-Stars looked best. So I just realized I didn't give top 4. So my top 4 would be Loud, Red, Pain, and then K-Stars, because I think K-Stars is slipping. I think Pain is slipping. We'll get to that later. They're causing me much pain. And then, I think I agree with what y'all are saying about Red and Loud being really good right now. And Red has a lot of hope. I just think that with the way the last week's playing out, because Loud had the advantage, I give them first. If not, I think Red could very easily take that first place as well.
I think it's gonna be Loud, Red, K-Stars, Pain, top 4. I think Loud will get a win, and it will be enough to get them there. I think they'll beat VKS at least, and potentially the other opponent as well, which is Loss, right? But Loss beat them last time, so Lamau. I think that what was the last thing I was going to say? Oh, VKS. So that I agree, they have definitely been faltering. I think that they have been Gigo and Pro Delta have not been faltering, to my mind. They have been popping at Pro Delta, especially. I've noticed him a lot in the last couple of weeks. We've gotten back to Pain Prod's level.
He's so
and
good.
I'm very excited for that. He's really paying off. I think that the lack of depth that Smiley has in terms of not what he's playing. They're certainly trying to make him play lots of different things, but I don't think he succeeds on anything that is not a late game scaler that is safe in lane. I think the Kalista game was a very clear indication of that. I think that was the Liberty game, and I was just like, this isn't you, bro. You ain't that guy. You ain't that guy. Don't take the Kalista. You're the Trigo here, okay? Don't take the Kalista. So I think this was the other moment where I predicted the Liberty win over VKS, and I was like, I understand this region, because this matchup felt very bad for VKS. It felt like Liberty had a very good matchup into them because they had a bot lane that couldn't punish Liberty's Mikau Cavallo antics with their crazy picks, and just the rest of the matchups, Pilot would be able to control the Lekka very well, and then the top lane was really like, we'll see how this goes kind of thing, because Makes could get schooled by Gigo, or he could go crazy and just make it be a bloodbath and work with it. So that ended up working out. But yeah, I think VKS, I still think they will sharpen up when it comes to best ofs. I have good faith of them in a best of series. I just think that they will identify that, like, okay, we have a way that we need to play this bot lane, and we're just going to play it the way that works. We've tried some stuff. Let's not try some stuff anymore. Jinx is back in the meta. You've got another pick to go down there that scales. You know, Kai'Sa's coming back. You've got other things that can scale well and be self-sufficient. Just let the man, you know, keep himself under control and scale, and then play to other areas of the map. And I think that's just what they'll do, which will work a lot better for them than the last couple of weeks. So we shall see how that top 4 shakes out. Let's move on and talk a little bit more in depth about INTZ, as the season is basically done for them. They have gotten their win, though. I said last week they're going to get one more win. I did not want or expect it to be from KaBuM, but alas, there it is. Do we think they're going to get any more wins first? Do we think that this is now, we're now going to have this is what we could have been, and we're going to end 4-14, and, you know, we just needed 2 more weeks, guys, for this roster to work? Or is it just kind of a fluke and it had to happen eventually kind of vibes?
Fluxo and Pain. Those are the remaining games.
Yeah.
Winnable?
So Fluxo, perhaps.
I'm feeling winnable.
Pain, no. No, I don't feel like winnable. I feel like winnable against Fluxo. I do. I think I do. But not against Pain. You just have too much of a backstory, too much of an experienced cargo there for Pain that INTZ is just gonna get completely afloat. But for Fluxo, I think there is a shot, because it felt like INTZ was unshackled from any pressure of playoffs, and that really got them to a next level. Even if the next level is how they were supposed to have started the split anyway. But I think that still gives them a little bit of an edge. And I know there are RMC, you still have plenty of things to talk about the INTZ KaBuM match, so I'll leave that to you now.
Well, the thing is, I'm with 4i4 on this about INTZ. We both agreed that INTZ shouldn't have lost as many games. They should be winning games. So when I look at the remaining matches, they should beat Fluxo. But I just don't know which INTZ shows up, right? Is it the one we've seen all season long, or is it the one we just saw last weekend? If it's the one we saw last weekend, they win. But that's the one we expected to see.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's the one we've seen all season long, then it's inexplicable. Like, I don't know why they were struggling. When you look at their individual plays, it actually wasn't that bad. It was just like their macro, somehow it just felt like they were lost. They had already lost the game even when they had it. So I think Fluxo is winnable. I think against Pain Gaming, my trauma is starting to act up. It shouldn't be a win for INTZ.
Well,
Really shouldn't.
Well,
if Pain lose this one, I believe it'll be a Pain loss, and I will yeet myself into the enemy fountain. Because, on paper or otherwise, it just shouldn't happen. So I think INTZ picks up one more.
Yeah, because Fluxo is a weird one. We'll get into Fluxo a little bit more after this as well. But they are the epitome of they can beat or lose to anyone kind of team, where like they just show up and go absolutely bonkers crazy in some games and just look insanely clean, and sometimes they look like a dev roster. You know, Liberty's kind of graduated out of that, and they're just good. They're just a good team. But Fluxo was still in that weird kind of limbo where we don't really know what's going to happen when they show up, which is exciting, but it does mean that they can certainly steamroll INTZ, or they could kind of get steamrolled if INTZ takes this win and just goes, right, we're now activated, and then just rolls them over. So we'll see if INTZ can put that together. We do need to discuss this KaBuM draft, though, guys, because I need to discuss this draft. I need to shout at you guys, because you guys have been allotted to sit in this room with me while I cry about this KaBuM draft. Why, why are we giving Natuno Senna? Why are we doing this? Axeman, I think, said this point where, like, you've got these crazy lane-crushing AD carries, and we're giving them Senna, and we're giving them Smolder, and we're giving them useless baby champs that can't do anything on their own, which is problem number one. We then combo this into the Graves versus rotation with no other jungle bans of any note that I can see too, and Marine just whips the Graves out for no apparent reason, and then they proceed to not build any more frontline and just lock in a Corki and a TF top, which we'll get into later as well. So RMC, as the resident somewhat of a draft specialist, certainly as a statistician and a student of the game, please help me understand what is going on here.
Okay, so I'll start with the Graves pick from Elrang. That's actually a perfectly fine blindable pick, especially in the current meta. Graves can do everything on his own. He doesn't need a team to do stuff. And it's not like he's got horrific matchups right now in the meta. So the Graves pick blind is actually okay and normal. We're just not seeing it that much here in CBLOL. But I'd actually prefer the Graves over things like the Lee Sin. You will have more impact early, ironically, and you will actually be able to skill up later as well. So that pick was fine. I do agree with your point about putting Natuno on Senna, though. And that raises concerns for me about Natuno's mindset as well. Like, has Natuno lost that killing instinct? Because we've not seen him be as dominant a force as he used to be. In the back in the day, he was compared with the likes of Titan. I remember when BRTT just left, was it 2021? Split one after BRTT left. You know, we were talking about Titan and Natuno potentially picking up the mantle of the new BRTT in the region because Natuno was so lane dominant. Haven't seen that all split. He's kind of been sitting back a little bit and feels like, hey, the Senna pick, is it Natuno now no longer feeling like I can dominate the lane? Let's pick something skilling. I do think it's a note of concern. And I do think part of the problem was you can blind it. It's fine. Mikal has shown us that it takes a bigger man, a bigger AD carry, and a more experienced AD carry to play these baby champions. But they can be very, very effective, and they are very blindable. So I don't hate how it got drafted. What I really appreciate is actually INTZ's draft answering it. Because when you pick the Senna and the Nautilus, usually it's farming Nautilus, and that's what we got this game as well. They picked a Braum, which hard countered it. And so Seos didn't get farm whatsoever. Natuno didn't really get the free stacks that you normally want to get with the pressure that they were putting down, with Karma Pride in mid lane, allowing better roams. And so Natuno got shut down too. And when both that get shut down, then you get the tank problem you're talking about, Trajan. If not, single tank, farming tank is okay for this comp. But Seos couldn't farm, they had no tank, and they got ripped to shreds.
And then Natuno died at level 2.
Good job from INTZ.
Also, didn't help.
That was post draft.
That's not fair. That angle that Damage found on Braum Wing into that minion was absolutely beautiful. It was stunning. It was like that was like
so nice.
Excellent max range. Like, just to give the man credit once again. Like, Damage certainly has not been slouching on this roster. But you know, even the House Corki couldn't save it. You know, he tried at certain times, and there were points where KaBuM are fighting back and they're getting kills, and the gold is fairly even for lots of it. But as soon as they walk into a 5v5. We see the problems start to arise. And, you know, when your opponent, Jungle Poppy, is 3-0 and 3, has a frozen heart by like 5 minutes in the game, where are we going with this ADTF plus AD Graves plus AD Senna kind of vibe that we've built for ourselves here?
And to be fair, this was never meant to be a teamfight composition. Let's make that very, very clear. I don't hate their composition, but it was never meant to teamfight. What they did with it, Trajan, that was the criminal part.
Yeah.
You group up as 5 and walk into a Poppy, Jinx, Gnar, Braum. Like, those are teamfight champions. KaBuM was supposed to play more split push, map pressure, side lane style composition, and they just opted to CBLOL it. So.
Yeah. It speaks to
I totally agree.
Speaks to the strategic problems that we mentioned earlier, right? It feels like maybe the backroom on KaBuM, not to like absolve the players by any means, but there is a disconnect here, I think, between the way the players are playing and the way this comp is meant to be played, what I would view as many of the strengths of these players and the comps that they are being drafted, and I get more and more confused by the week. They're still really good, and they still pull wins out every now and again. But we've lost the consistency they had earlier on, and now it just seems like we don't know if they're going to win or not against anybody, and that's not what this roster should be in my opinion. We should have confidence in them against most of the teams, and that's how it started, was where they beat everyone below them and they maybe go even against the top ones, but now we're just going even against everyone, and it's a bit sus. I will say that they don't have a losing head-to-head against anyone, so that's notable. They've not actually decidedly lost to anyone, and it's actually impossible for them to have a losing head-to-head against anyone now. So no single team is better than them by this metric, you see.
My brother and sister in CBLOL, this team, it'd be the most CBLOL thing for KaBuM to go 1-1 against every single team.
They take that week 1 energy and just bookend it nicely. The narrative comes back around, and then we just finish up with the 1-1s. And that requires them to have an 0-2 last week and then probably fail to make playoffs, which would just put a beautiful cap on that.
KaBuM, please, you have a chance to do something.
To do the funniest possible thing right now.
No, that would feel so bad though. No, they belong on playoffs. It would make me cry if they weren't on playoffs.
Yeah, especially now they have more than one series. Like, they've got chances to try and fix the house problem and then the tutor problem, and I don't know, man.
Yeah, it's really not being executed well, because I agree with RMC in the regards of, it's no problem with how they picked it, with the draft order, but what you make with the composition has to follow what you drafted. How are you not using the TF on your side lanes? Why was the TF on those fights to begin with? It was not supposed to be there. It was supposed to be getting pressure on side lanes, forcing out TPs, forcing out resets, or even getting pressure, shoving in, and then recalling with TP and guaranteeing you had side lane and border of the fight pressure. But that's not what they did. And House was so disappointing as well on the Corki. Every time they had package, they went in and they're like, yes, now? Okay. They just didn't do anything with it. And it felt so bad because, yeah, you have a Graves that could be blinded, but INTZ drafted so good for team fight against this composition. And the early game was just denied, completely denied on the bot side with the Braum. And when you had the Poppy scaling so early, what can the Graves do against the Frozen Heart? Like, nothing really. And from that point on, they just thought, oh, well, if it's not working, we'll just try to do what people do, which is fighting. But that's not how your composition played to begin with.
Okay.
No, if you pick a fork, stop trying to use it to drink soup. Like, pick the right tools for what you want to do.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're not really sure what's going to come out of KaBuM over the remainder of this season. INTZ did get their win. We'll see if they can get one more. We can use this as a bouncing off point to quickly sidetrack into a question that we have for later on, which is, what's the bigger bait pick, Smolder or TF Top? Because I'll pose a question to you as to try and give RMC maybe a taste of his own medicine here. I'll quickly take it off the screen here, because otherwise it'll leak it. But what do you think has the higher win rate? Or what's got the lower win rate? This is talking about bait picks. Who's got the lower win rate? Bot Smolder or Top TF in the CBLOL? Okay.
Oh, I don't know if it's like top specifically, but I do know their win rates. So I know which one it is. So
what do you think? What do you think is the worst pick?
So the problem is, I already had the stats on my screen before you asked.
Oh no!
So I've had the stats here for the whole podcast. So yeah, that's something.
Okay, so for the viewers, Twisted Fate is 2-5, has a 29% win rate in the CBLOL. Smolder is 3-8, has a 27% win rate, according to Games of Legends as of right now. So Smolder is very slightly more of a bait pick, technically, in the CBLOL. It has more games as well, so it's got less excuse. But let's talk about that. Why is TF Top struggling so much? I think Smolder has quite clear identifiable weaknesses that we are now, the champion obviously is becoming more and more busted as people understand it more, and it also got weirdly buffed, which, we don't have to touch on that yet. But what's going on with TF Top? Why are we struggling to understand and make use out of this pick?
Okay, so I think these two picks have very different situations, to be fair. Smolder, I think CBLOL is completely using wrong. I think that's a bait pick with the way CBLOL uses it.
Mhm.
They are blinding it and they're not providing it enough support. If you pick a Smolder, you need a bridge to get to that late game. And we don't see that
Preach.
with a lot of these compositions. We're seeing things like Smolder with Azir with like something skill in the top lane or not a winning matchup in the top lane.
Yeah.
And then you have 3 losing lanes and Smolder's just like, guys, I'm just trying to grow big. Like let me grow up first instead of killing me in my infancy. Whereas when we see the Twisted Fate on the other hand, I think CBLOL has figured out how to deal with Twisted Fate. And the game that sticks out was Chiari playing it. And the enemy team just dove it repeatedly. You pick something that can dive in the top lane, you pick a aggressive jungler that can facilitate that, and you just cap the ever-living life out of that Twisted Fate. So CBLOL is really good at punishing that. So I think they're 2 very, very different situations. I think for CBLOL, the Twisted Fate, where they're picking, it's not bad. It's great into Cassante, into melees who can't reach you, and then you scale up and do a ton of damage. Now, I will also say, I think this doesn't matter anymore, Trajan, because 14.5, Twisted Fate got gutted.
Yeah.
And I don't think we see it as much anymore.
Yeah.
Probably murdered it.
Same page here. And I would add as well that in regards to the Smolder, it's still going to be there because you're only having some adjustments coming out on 14.6 that would actually impact it. So that makes a big difference on how you're going to see it coming out to playoffs. But I think as much as I agree with RMC there, I also feel like the TF top should have been played a little bit better because there are plenty of situations where people were trying to team fight with it when it wasn't supposed to be the case. So you could have gotten like inhibitor down, tier 3 down, trying to really get map pressure, and they are not really doing it. You're not utilizing as the champion is supposed to be played with immense, almost best map rotation that the game has at the moment. So I think that really tanks down the win rate. On top of that, for the Smolder, yes, you're not having any protection whatsoever for it. You're trying to rely on it to grow, and you're not allowing for the rest of the team to be heavy and have their power by themselves, so the Smolder can actually do their stuff and just, I'm farming on the side lanes, I am trying to get something out here, and then when the game goes into 25, they're like, yeah, I'm huge, I can really execute everyone, because the 14.6 is not there yet, and you're still going to be executing people from a very good portion of their HP. So it's that with no protection for the Smolder, but also I still think that the only player that can play Smolder is Mikau in this league. Like, like effectively, Mikau is the only player that gets the win rate to be there, because if it wasn't for Mikau, it would be like 15%. It would have been even worse. And the people that are doing better on Smolder, they are playing like Mikau does. And to be fair, he has no right to be playing as good as he does on Smolder because he's usually aggressive in the early game. And that is not how it's supposed to be. Hence why Riot is going to be changing that on 14.6. So.
Yeah.
I also just do want to add on to that point as well, Sochan, that you mentioned. I do think Brunsey actually plays a good Smolder as well. I don't think that team lets him play Smolder.
He's the only other guy with a Smolder win.
You're right.
Is Brunsey. He's 1 and 2 with it. And in that Loud game, I think that he did mostly a good job, but like they did ultimately lose when he died. Like it's felt like as soon as he goes down, the fight falls apart, and the one moment your positioning isn't absolutely optimal or you don't set up the fight right, it just all falls apart. And if he's on Xayah, I feel like that doesn't happen. If he's on Kaisa, maybe it doesn't happen. Zeri, maybe it doesn't happen. Even if Elios, maybe it doesn't happen. Just these, especially when you're in the river, when you're in objective, you don't have as many easy walls to jump over, perhaps. It has no recourse. If they get you, you are got, and it's ogre for you. There's no way out. You do have such a massive upside on the damage, but as RMZ and Sofjan have said, like, we're not really protecting it properly. So as soon as like that window is left open, you're done, and then there is a gaping hole in your comp for the rest of the fight.
For sure.
Yeah. So we shall see. I think we were talking about whether Smolder would be given to Mikau again, and we thought that it would, and it has been. People are just still giving it to him. And we'll continue to question why until they stop. And yeah, for the others, it does seem like a bit of a bait, but we'll maybe get our hands on it, get a handle on it in playoffs. We'll maybe see some more people be able to get some more out of it. And then the T up top, I think we should just let this one pass into history.
Yeah,
as it's about to get changed and gutted. We've not gotten anything good out of it. Yeah, it's had its moment. No one had fun. Just leave it away. You know, consign it to the LeBlanc AD pile. Just like, this was really unfortunate for solo queue for a month. Now let's not talk about it ever again.
The tank is your meta, thankfully.
Yeah, I'm like, that one didn't stick. I'm glad that one didn't stick.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Okay. That was awful.
It's so bad. Okay, so let's wrap up the rest of the league chat. Let's do a quick debrief on Fluxo and FURIA. And the question that we have been posed by the runner show is whether there was ever any chance for these teams to actually be contesting up in playoffs now that things have shaken out the way they have. And I think immediately for me, I think there was for Fluxo. I think we've touched on this before, that by the way they've played, the wins that they have pulled out, it feels like just a dice roll. Like, they could have gotten a few more wins by just showing up on the day. And it doesn't seem like there's any factor that controls who shows up on the day for Fluxo. So maybe if they just rolled a couple more nat 20s, they would have been in the playoffs right now. How do you guys feel about Fluxo? Do you think there was a chance for them, especially given that we know that like where Liberty was going, where Lost was going? Do you think there was ever room for Fluxo, or was it never gonna be?
Yeah, I don't think there was, because you hit the nail on the head there, because Fluxo was just not consistent enough. They didn't get the wins when those head-to-heads was supposed to be in their favor. I think the biggest, let me have a look. Yeah, the biggest highlights to me would have been Scamba and Fu, but also Fu would be like, they're either doing incredibly well or they get denied. And it's funny because it's a team that feels like doesn't really much know how to play coming from behind. So if they're in a deficit, they don't really get to overcoming it. But to me, Scamba was the one person that was usually the most consistent in the team. And it always felt like they were great shot callers. They were getting good decisions. You would see those good decisions and the team wouldn't follow it up, or they wouldn't be there with the right amount of prediction time. So it kind of felt like a solo queue sometimes, because support engaging in the good moments with good intentions and good macro, and especially good micro, because Kemba executed really well the Swords of the Nautilus, the Rel. But goddamn, the team was just not there. And if it wasn't a day where Fu was playing the first week of Kali, then how were they going to convert on anything? So unfortunately for them, I feel like they didn't really have a shot, because Liberty and Lost are just, they're keeping a level that Fluxo never did this split.
I love the Scamber call out. I loved the way he played individual fights.
I think coming into the split, I was thinking it's a Chiari Scamber angle, and I was like, what are you going to do as a support, right? Like, you need an AD carry to support in order to actually really take over.
Didn't you hear? Froxon said supports are broken. AD carries too weak. The supports are too good, you see. So
too weak.
Unironically, I actually do think that there is some truth to that, especially especially in CBLOL.
Not until you see the hybrid Kai'Sa.
Yeah, we're already starting.
She's burning. She's burning.
She's doing a disgusting amount of damage. It feels like she always comes back for international events nowadays.
True.
That said, I think for Fluxo, as it is, Fu massively overperformed my expectations of him. Like, he was not this great. Like, Fu's split was what I thought INTZ would get this split.
Yes.
So Fu overperformed my expectations massively. Sting has done pretty much what I expected. I know a lot of people were not happy with Sting. I thought he was fine the last time we saw him.
Sting. Now I like Sting.
Yeah. Okay.
I was.
We saw him, we weren't on him.
Yeah, I was not happy about Sting, and yeah, you were. No, this is what he's doing. I swear there's a point to this, and like he's just playing in a certain way, and I was like, he didn't get any kills. Bad player.
Bad.
Now that he's been given the space to actually be the carry in some of these things. Yeah. But to me, the issue was always Kojima and Fu, and unfortunately for Kojima, we've seen him go the way of the recent Academy AD carries we've seen like come up last split as well. The likes of Juliera, like Raven. Like you're good in Academy, but the problem is the level in CBLOL. There is a gap because our AD carries here are really gosh darn good. So yeah, I think Fluxo just never had a shot. I did think Furia had a shot. Right up to the moment they dropped both Destroy and Mirror.
Right
I
until they
actually thought
blew
they
the
had a
team
shot.
up. I was like,
Yeah,
these guys
because
have got it.
the thing was, Destroy was the struggling piece for me. I
Mm.
thought Mir was doing great, and I think
Yeah.
Steiner has been a good jungle. In fact, he's actually one of the jungles I have an eye on in Academy. But to be thrown in this situation right now, like that's not a play for success. Shino for me wasn't somebody I thought was quite ready for CBLOL yet, and I think there's a case to be made that maybe he's performing better than Destroy did. But we didn't have to get rid of Mirror and Destroy. You could have just sent Destroy home, kept Mirror, put Gino up there. You know, worst comes to worst. Like there were other configurations. So I thought up to the moment they got rid of both Koreans, they had a shot. They got rid of both, they have no shot.
I think that I had less faith in Furia because of that I didn't see the things that I liked about them before. I didn't like about them anymore. You know,
Fair.
so I thought like, well, I just felt like the whole point was not like the concept was broken at this point and would need to be fixed in some way. I think that the top lane, the people they patched in top and jungle were fine. They didn't fix it. They started to play with a bit more just freedom and flexibility once their season was over. True. I think that's probably why they started to look a little better. Not necessarily that like Steiner and Shino fixed everything or they suddenly unlocked it. I think they were just like, well, this season is done. Like we dropped our whole top side. We put the academies in. We're going next. So let's just have some good games. And they did. They did have some good games.
I think what actually got unlocked was language barrier because they are finally speaking with everybody in Portuguese. Yeah. And I really think that makes them feel more comfortable not having to switch between, because if I'm not mistaken, I don't know which, if it was Destroy or Mir, but some of them just didn't speak English, or some of the Brazilians didn't speak English. Mir, so it was...
Yeah, Mir was coming in from NACL, so he speaks really good English. In fact, he's actually from Oceania. So he actually...
Oh, okay.
But Destroy,
he was the one doing the translation. But Destroy wasn't. And so what everybody was saying was that Mir had to translate Korean into English, and then the rest of the team was like working in English, even though like
this is like the old speaker thing.
So difficult.
One of those teams that he was on, where he was having to like translate the TSM Chinese like LDL TSM team, where speaker was like translating to the LDL rookies or something. Like just the dumbest idea possible to make your force your jungler to do that.
We had the same situation here in CBLOL with the roster that almost won. Renska. Yuri and Croc. Was it Yuri and Croc or was it the Ryan Wiz combo? One of the we had a good team who managed to make it work, even though somebody was translating for the other person.
That might have been a KaBuM like Wiz and Parang moment, maybe. Oh, they didn't almost win though. They just came first in regular season.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah.
Anyway,
but they had a good run.
Yeah, I wouldn't remember either.
But it's not a good idea. Like generally speaking.
Yeah, I think that further cements where RMC said like, keep Mir. They were doing well. Keep Mir, get Destroy, back to Korea, and then somebody, if it is Shino, then it is Shino. And they could try and do much better because Mir was doing really well, especially when they had the IU-Zai combination really to a T, because sometimes teams would just let the pike go and you shouldn't be doing that. But that was just like the best that they could have looked. And they did. They performed how they were supposed to. They did really well. But then it's not just the fact that they changed everything. Last week, they also had a substitution for Zai. So it's been long gone, unfortunately, for them. It really has been long gone.
I think.
By the way, I just want to say, Mir has the highest first blood rate in all of CBLOL. It's not even close.
He's really good.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of those things where I think it's very hard to... It's harder to look good when I think one of the biggest issues they had was lack of coordination between the way they're playing fights. Like Mir and the rest of the team, or Mir and other players on the team, seem to have very different ideas about what to do. And then, it's better to make a bad play together than a good play, than 7 good plays at once, right? So I think it's very hard for the team to look good when that's happening. And we didn't really get a fair view, I think, on Mir especially. So yeah, it's a shame that we lost that. That could have been a a strong piece there. But ultimately, this whole Furia thing needs a rethink, in my opinion. The whole thing was not working. I don't know what's going on with Tuts, INTZ, but they had a bad split. All of them did. And we need to work out why that is and try and sort that, because I would not like to lose, especially INTZ, to the, just have them like not reach the peak and then just fizzle out, there's a real risk of happening given how great everyone else is in this league right now. It's crazy. So we'll see about that. And then for Fluxo, yeah, I echo everything you guys said about food. Like, he's MVP or nothing, kind of like very boom or bust. But the amount of MVP games this guy's put on has to be raising some eyebrows. And then, yeah, loved what we saw from Sting. I've seen enough from Chiari that I'm now happy for him to have another split. You know what I mean? Like, I was coming in, being like, I need to see something now for you, okay? And he showed me something. So I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah, that's fine. That's enough.
Thanks.
He's like the second most elo health player after Ninja Kiwi.
Just enough. He always shows just enough.
The Chiari Gwen game was great.
Yeah, right. There's always like those games that slip in there, and you're like, here he is. That's the guy. That's the guy that we keep putting in like top of B, and we can't really put him higher, but we can't put him lower. Yeah. So,
just right there.
He's sticking it. He's sticking it out. So yeah, we'll see if I have no idea what Flux is going to do, obviously, because they had done this like big investment into low investment, so maybe they throw it all out and try and do a big investment, or I hope they keep at least some of these people and try and build on what they have. Furia tried to do that and it didn't work at all. So maybe they'll be like, oh shoot, I don't know.
They didn't though. They blew up half their roster. Furia.
Yeah. Anyway, sure. Anyway, so we'll see. So unfortunately, their season is done. They've got one more week to show us some stuff and spoil some trajectories, but ultimately, both of them showed us some good things, but we'll hope for more of them next time around. Now, let's shorten the expectations for next week, because I know that we are on a bit of a clock here. Let's just try and get a match of the week from all of us for next week. We've already touched on the implications a lot of the playoffs. So if you guys have the schedule available, do you have a thought on a match of the week? We've got things like Loud VKS. Yes. We've got Pain INTZ, which is sure to be a banger. We've got Pain VKS.
Damn it, Trajan, you beat me to it. I was going to say Pain INTZ.
Last game of the split.
How low can Pain go?
An ironical banger.
Yeah, we're going to end this regular season at the very bottom of the barrel to then rise up into the playoffs. That's what we're doing. So I think I'm actually going to take Liberty Red. I think that game is going to be stupid, and it's going to be very dumb. It's going to be a very dumb game of League, and I'm going to love it. I'm going to love it all the time. I hope that they just give Makes Darius and let FNB counterpick, and don't just give him Gragas or something. But that's mine. I'm going to take Liberty Red.
Okay, I like that. To be fair, if I could choose like the match of the day for every day, I would do Liberty Red, and the other one I would do VKS Loud. But before playoff prospect, I think Loud VKS to me just
it's kind of for first, right? Like it's almost essentially for first. Even if it technically doesn't end up shaking out that way, they are at the top right now, and they feel like the complete new entity, not like new by name, but new by roster and vibes from VKS versus the triple time champions that we need someone to deal with at some point.
Sure.
RMC, are you sick with Pain INTZ, or do you have a match you think is actually going to be good?
For trauma and Pain dishes, it's going to be the Pain INTZ for the floor of Pain. Yeah. But I'm actually keeping an eye on KaBuM versus Los Grandes, because we set that up. That is the potential 6th place spot battle, depending on how it goes. So to me, that one has the potential highest stakes.
Yeah, and it's got a similar vibe to Loud VKS, honestly. A lot of big names on KaBuM, and a new prospect and a new kind of composition across from them that has been surprising everyone in a good way. So yeah, I think that's a good pick, a sleeper pick for sure for the week.
Yeah.
And we'll see how that shakes out. Let's quickly do some viewer questions just before we wrap up here. We have one, and it's kind of turned into two. So we'll see if we can blaze through them here. Submitted on our community Discord, which you can all join. There'll be links to all of our socials if you want to join and ask us some questions, which we'll be answering every single week. From Lunar Day, which non-import CBLOL player, I assume, would you be most excited to see play internationally? And I have an instant answer for this, so I'm gonna let you guys go first.
Okay.
Let's
I'm
just
gonna have to
slam
have
a
think
name with
about
no
it.
reasoning first, and then
Yeah,
we can.
name with no
Shall we
reasoning.
do that?
Yeah.
Okay, Zai.
Uh-huh. Cypher MC. Soph, any thoughts?
Oh, Predelta.
Delta, another good shout.
Okay.
Mine is FMB. I want to see FMB
He's
International.
awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's dig into it just a little bit. Zai, RMC, for the support. Both of you actually having supports, which is exciting because normally regions
Love
don't
that,
get
yeah.
hella excited about their supports like super often unless they're like carrier. We don't get to see the big names up in lights. So you just want to see that international Pike game. You want to see the Pike ult string across the MSI stage.
So good.
100%, because we keep seeing like Ashe is super high prior right now in meta, right? And I think these sort of enchanter or these sort of poke style champions like Ashe support, Vera support, not so much now, Renata, Milio, all these sort of things. Guess what counters all of them?
Pike eats them for breakfast.
Yeah, and we don't see enough Pike. I want to see Zai just take that Pike to the world stage and teach the rest of the world this champion needs to be banned. Stop leaving it open, guys. Especially Bloodsong. It's been so busted in season 14. Also, additional points if IU teaches Zai to properly play the Belveth support, and we see that back in
yeah, you can carry the torch for IU, bring the Belveth. They probably go as a package at this point, but yeah. We could see that come through. So, Pro Delta.
So, I think my choice goes to Pro Delta because he was Rookie of the Year last year, and I think he really deserved it. So this would be the first split that he's not a rookie anymore. He's a little more experienced, seasoned, and he's on VKS this time around. So left from Pain, now on VKS. I think he's been very well coached, and I think that's one of the biggest highlights for me for VKS is how Seal has been coaching everyone into adjusting a import player onto Quid and Leleco in a rookie as well and making it work. So they took Prodelta with all the experience he had in going on to finals and brought him here to keep a consistent performance that somebody that has been on CBLOL for 4 years should be doing. Like for 3 years, for 4 years. The guy is just really, really consistent. He knows how to play the tanks that are being played in the meta at the moment. If he needs to be on what we call in Brazil, campeão de fadinha, the fairy champions, like the Lulu, like the champions. Enchanters.
He can do it.
They do it. He can do it.
On it.
Exactly. That was one of my favorites from last year. So
does not care.
It really, this is why I want Prodelta to be going international.
It raised an interesting point that I don't know if this is actually true, but it feels, this is a vibe check, that when you have the emerging minor, whatever the word is, regions, like CBLOL, LATAM, LGL, whatever, it seems very rare that you get rookies or almost rookies that actually show up international, because these regions are so often dominated by like marquee teams that have been there a long time, and there's players that tend to dominate the regions more for longer times. So how often do we actually see rookies brought onto the international stage, and even from then performing to any kind of level? Because DFM famously brought a rookie to MSI, and it was very bad. It was an ugly experience for the rookie and for DFM. Like, it was their top lane sub. I forget the guy's name, but it was like he was like a Draven role swapped up there.
Toltu.
Yes, Toltu. It was ugly, right? And we don't get to see that very often. And I was like, do we get to see rookies from emerging regions that much?
Though.
He
actually played
was it not in Div 1? In his
played
LGL
for
Div 1?
Axis the split before, because I was cheering for that team.
There you go.
When he...
Sure. So again, not a rookie, close to though, right? Not an experienced player. So how often do we tend to see actual rookies get brought from like minor regions onto international? It feels like not often at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I largely agree that, except for CBLOL. We are specifically.
We keep the spice. We keep bringing the new names.
Yeah,
it's so true. Yeah.
Redhead Greftar, who literally only his debut was in the playoffs for that split, and then we brought Bruncy as well, Mr. Botgap.
Yeah, that's true.
Worlds. So, I think it is pretty rare, and CBLOL probably brings the most.
Just us, yeah. And now it's just been loud for a while, so we haven't seen them as recently. But yeah, that's
it's true. Yeah.
That is cool though, that we are, you know,
I'm on the
even
same page.
going further back, we've got the talent factory and like are bringing the new players to the international stage more often than some others. And then I wouldn't want to get deep into like VCS and PCS. I don't know the regions well enough to say, but like VCS
Yeah, me
being
either.
GAM locked for so long like makes it harder to find new players, and then PCS being PSG Talon
PSG.
blocked.
Yeah.
But now they got 2 slots, so we had Team Wales and stuff. We started to see some more people, so that was cool. Okay, so I would like to see FNB because I'm very tired of seeing Robo get absolutely rinsed on Rise Top. I'll be honest. Just quickly, and I think that FNB he's the top laner I trust most against any other CBLOL top laner to be consistently valuable, to also be able to find kills. The new rookies are now, you know, adding a new line to that kind of narrative. But even then, if I had to pick a top laner to be like, we need you to be a reliable force for us, even Wiser has some absolutely horrendous games sometimes every now and again that just like they're so bad. I would have maybe said him last split, and I probably did, but I think FMB for me now is like Gigo is a spanner in the works in that way.
Well, we've seen Gigo at Worlds before, so
I guess that's saved by the. But yeah, he how did he do at Worlds or MSI was it?
Meh.
Fair enough.
It was World early, yeah.
But yeah, Gigo right now is certainly on absolute tip top of his game, so that would certainly be a good call to see him go back and see what he can do. That's a fair call for sure. But it's in the same way that we've never seen FMB win a title, and we kind of can't have one without the other until we get 2 slots. I want to see him actually try and stack up, because he's been performing at such a like consistently high level for so long and been able to put these amazing games on, and can do the Cassante duty, the Gragas duty, the more of a utility kind of Wiser-esque role if needed, and that's just something that I want to see it happen.
Just so before we proceed on the rookies, I think our tier 2 is so good. I think our tier 2, like I think CBLOL Academy brings the most. So CBLOL brings the most rookies more frequently for international because our tier 2 is incredibly high level. Like I've been speaking to many people in regards to the championship that we will have for tier 2 for Americas, right? So most people are like, Brazil is just going to do so well on it. We have such good teams that I think it comes from that we really well prepared them to go into tier 1 and be on the good curve for international play. I see an NACL smile
ACL
there,
watcher considering. Just quickly, how do you think that would stack up, just very briefly, RMC, kind of NA versus CBLOL? You know, we will, sorry LATAM, but I don't know, but I think let's NA versus CBLOL.
I have heard that Astral, LLE's top team, scrims against some of the at least one of the NACL teams, and it goes fairly even. So if that tells you anything about LLA. Sure. I don't follow the Academy system, so I don't know. I can't speak to their Academy whatsoever. I do follow CBLOL Academy. I'm just laughing because I actually we just had this conversation for and I and some of his viewers on his channel about that. And I think CBLOL Academy prepares their players very well in a mechanical sense. Like you can plug and play their players into a roster very well. But one thing I think that they will struggle very heavily against NACL is macro. NACL has better strategy and they come to the game with a game plan. Whereas when I look at Academy, a lot of the teams don't have as clear a game plan. KaBuM notably stands out for that. But to me right now in CBLOL Academy, the top 3 teams are KaBuM, Pain, KaBuM, and there's a big gap between them and the next set of teams coming through. KaBuM has been hands checking and playing with their brains off. Like I love you, CBLOL, but come on,
right?
Guys.
Yeah, that's just like the 7th place CBLOL roster playing an Academy.
Exactly, and they're hand checking. I'm sure they can play with their brains, but they haven't done so. So it's hard to compare.
We haven't seen it. I believe it's possible.
Yeah, we've seen them do it in CBLOL. Come on, guys. But they're not doing it in Academy. Pain right now is playing the loud style, which is 20 minutes, we do nothing, and then we team fight and win games. So that to me is very vulnerable to good early macro that we're seeing from teams like KaBuM. KaBuM is showing us that good, clean early macro, but they very similar to CBLOL situation where sometimes it feels like their hands don't quite match up to KaBuM and Pain specifically, but their early macros are really good. So the problem is I feel like against the top of the NACL, you need the complete package because the top of the NACL could probably contest the bottom of the LCS.
Yeah.
And be comparable. I wouldn't say they'll have a winning record necessarily.
Mhm.
So kind of because of that right now, I think the top of the NACL is better, but I do think CBLOL Academy does train their talent better. Like with NACL, it feels like talent just has to train themselves and then they find a team. Whereas in CBLOL Academy, the growth within the split is insane. Red and Loud Academy both. Yeah, I've seen the growth within their regular season, and their regular season is only 11 games right now. So yeah.
Fair enough. We will hopefully
Awesome.
see when the potential America's Cup develops. We will maybe get to find the answer to these questions. Now, the last question that we're kind of adapting from a clarification that our wonderful community manager Super Bren asked of this previous one. Like, which Brazilian player would they be most excited to play in a bigger league? And I'm going to take that to mean which Brazilian player would we like to see picked up by a major region and given a shot to contest? Because we have got a sort of, it's not a Brazilian player, but we have the B-Boy example going into Shopify that many people agree is kind of the best player on Shopify and has been kind of carrying them to certain wins and playing the usual B-Boy, like this guy just doesn't make errors kind of style and can be a late game team fight win condition when one is called for. So do we have any players that we would like to see maybe given a shot on realistically an LCS team, maybe an LEC team, but I don't know if the LCK is in the market for any Brazilian talent right now, but who do we think could maybe step up into a bigger pond?
I think Chita for LCS is very feasible.
That'd be so fire, dude. It'll be just throw Titan into the LCS would be so fire. The content alone would be worth.
Yeah. There are players who I would like to see them get a shot at bigger leagues, just because I think that perhaps the CBLOL style might not be best for them, but I don't necessarily think they perform the best. And specifically, I'm thinking of Yampy and Karaoke here when I say that. That said, if I had to push a player up to the international stage right now, I'd actually probably look at Gigo. I think Gigo is, as you guys have mentioned, one of the best forms in his life that we've seen at any rate. And I think he can go further. But
it's a good time.
And I think, the international stage would be better for him to do that than CBLOL right now.
Yeah. I think I could maybe push Brunsey. We're still not quite back to a lot of loud Brunsey levels, but we're getting there, I think. And I think an AD carry is the natural plug and play position. That said, I don't know how good his English is, because he's still a young guy, so that might be a struggle. But
just these 2 words, bot gap.
Exactly. I have to write them down. Doesn't even have to say them. You can just write it down.
True, yeah.
And then I'd be interested in someone, assuming language barrier isn't a thing, maybe like Desamus. I don't know why, but I think that because we've started to see where we've just been waiting for the potential of Desamus to be unlocked for splits after splits, and we're getting close now. BKS close to finishing first, and we're getting a lot of good games out of him. Maybe he's just too good for the CBLOL. That's my new excuse. Now we shall simply post him up into a better region, and then he will flourish into a beautiful butterfly, perhaps.
He's grown so much under Coach CL, so I could see that.
We got the LEC coach in, and now we're cooking. So maybe we send Desamus back to the LEC. We trade it. And I think that would be interesting to see how he does. But yeah, I think Titan and Brunsey, both very exciting, explosive AD carries, could certainly make waves there. Honestly, I think Ninja Kiwi could also have a good shot there if we just just give it. We so anti-elo hell him. We promote him out of the CBLOL into a major region. Then he can't be elo held because the whole region is better.
We've just changed the elo hell to a bigger elo.
We just put him on IMT or something. We're like, oh no, we've made it worse.
Oh no.
He might go insane.
I love you guys' shouts, and I think Carioca would be a great call. I think for some reason I think Carioca would suit well to LEC. So Trajan, if you think that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think Carioca has incredible map control and 50-50 on Smite. Like his 50-50s are so good.
Yeah,
and for some reason,
just said that Carioca's like second or third in the league for Smite steals or something like that, right? Like I vaguely remember.
Oh, second or third, really? Who's best?
C's
see right now.
and
C's okay.
is it Sting or Malrang? Malrang might be second actually.
It could be Malrang second.
I think
C's, Malrang, Carioca.
I think Croc and Karaoke have 3, and C's and Malrang have 5.
Croc and C's right now.
Croc and C's have 5. Okay.
And then Malrang and Carioca are at 3.
Sure.
So.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Apologies.
So I just feel like he would be a great player for LEC, like for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, Karaoke, I think, is someone that definitely gets more hate than the man deserves, and has shown some of the most intelligent jungling that we've seen over the last few years. Like, we know that is always in there. Sometimes we have the 0-8 Vi game, sometimes we have the Kha'Zix game, but you know, who hasn't had the Kha'Zix game in their life? So, and there's definitely a lot going on under the hood there that would be good to flex in a bigger region. Right. Okay, let's call it there, because I know that RMC is probably very late for something or other. He's a busy man. So thank you everybody for tuning into another episode of Gringos Liberados. We have one more week of regular season. We'll be back on the CBLOL_English Twitch channel at usual times this coming weekend, and obviously check out all of our socials, which will be linked below and wherever we usually do that. So thank you everyone, have a great rest of your week, and we will see you on the weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.